But you said the camera had a low angle and so
Yes.
on. Everyone knows, even the layman, I think, that one of Orson Welles' innovations, supposedly, was putting the camera in places where no one had before.
Not
People
only
said,
that,
you can't
but
do that.
putting
And
the
they said,
top
well,
on.
we'll do it by doing it this way, and he did it. What did it take to
Well,
think
he
of
did
that
the
sort of
great thing was to put, I mean, the great thing he did was to put the top on sets.
Ceilings, yeah.
No one ever saw ceilings before.
Nobody,
in
he put
movies.
the camera so low you could, see all the lights up there. So he put a ceiling on the set. God, he did that all the time, and that
He
really
put the camera
low
below
angle
the,
shots.
below the floor.
Is that because he didn't know any better, or he was an innovator?
He didn't learn any of the so-called rules and said, why not shoot up that? You do that on the stage. I mean, so much of what's so dramatic about his stuff, it comes from all that sort of stage stuff he did.
Now, are you luckier to be directors now than when he was, when there weren't the old-timers around saying, you can't do that, you can't have the focus in the background as well as in the foreground, you can't do all those things Wells did. Do you still run into that attitude?
Yeah, a little bit. They say, no, you can't do that.
There's always a way. And my answer is, I'm sure you'll find a way. And I walk away. And they do.
And they
find a
do
way.
then,
They
because
do.
it's challenges.
No, it's not a challenge. It's like, I really trust them that they will find a way.
Yeah.
These guys.
But
most of the
if
guys
you
I work
have a
with.
lot of technical, I have a lot of technical background. I mean, I've shot and I've edited, I've done it all. I mean, I've taken sound. I mean, if they start giving me that mumbo jumbo
I've done
about,
it.
well, you can't put the, can't put the
I've done that
camera
too.
up there, the lights will flare, the 704 and the 2602 is not going to go into the 4. And you say, and then you know exactly what they're talking about. They can't pull that stuff. I think that's the problem with theatrical director coming into movies, where he doesn't know what they're talking about. They can really feed you a lot, because I remember shooting with an Italian crew once.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
I was there.
Italian crew. You were there.
I was
The
there.
steps,
That's
the
the
steps of
movie.
the church.
I was there. That's right. The steps of the
This
church.
is a whole different problem. They're building up this track on the steps of the church, and I'm doing a tracking shot of Cliff Robinson
Would
walking
this
up.
be Obsession?
Yes, walking up the steps of the church, and they're pushing the dolly up. First they say, oh, the shot can't be done. The shot cannot be done. I said, no, you build the dolly up here and you just push it up. Can't be done, can't be done. So we finally said, try it. So they built this whole thing. They pushed it up the steps, and it worked. Of course, it took them a long time. They complained a lot.
raining.
Then I said, now we're going to do it the second shot on the second set of steps. They said, absolutely not, and they went on strike.
That's right.
What's
It's too
strike?
hard.
That's on strike, yes.
Too hard.
It was raining.
What
Too
makes a
hard.
what makes
You
a
never
second
imagine
flight
it.
higher than a first
it's
flight?
just too hard.
Uh-huh.
You can't imagine. Too hard?
Well, what happened finally?
That was it. I had to think of a different shot.
So you don't always win. It
No,
depends on
you
what
don't
country
always
you're in and the attitude you
I
have.
make it easy, a little
Yeah.
bit easy.
Are there certain no-nos where you just never put the camera? To me now, if I were directing a movie, I would think, now how do I know who's going to tell me where to put the camera? You don't put it in the fireplace, do you? That's one no-no. I did
You
a
mean
show
from
with
behind the flames?
Yeah, in the old days, always you'd
Oh,
be
right.
behind the flames for
Yes,
some reason.
yes.
I
Point of
mentioned
view
that
of
to
Santa
Hitchcock
Claus,
when I
yes.
did a show with him, and he said, yes, I always want to know who's in the fireplace.
Yes, that's right.
Because they don't,
right.
it's as if
Who's
someone's
watching?
looking.
Right. Someone's
Point of
watching.
view of brick.
Point of
under
view.
the table,
Yes.
under a glass table, looking up.
Or log, unhappy log.
Yes, that's. Is there a rule you can make about that direction should not call attention to itself?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, when you start putting stuff in the foreground, or in television they do all the time. Well, they're dollying with stuff in the foreground all the time.
Oh,
Just
we
to
do a lot of that, though.
I know, but
We do a lot of it. We call attention to ourselves in our direction, a lot of it. I mean, camera movements and
Speak
things.
for yourself. I try not to draw attention to myself.
Come on, no problem.
Brian, the other day,
Come on. Make a few mistakes. Yeah.
I can see you have a wonderful effect on each other.
Really great. Yeah.
Brian, I saw The Fury, and I had an experience after seeing it that I also had after seeing the movie that neither of you did make, I think. I know neither of you made, Don't Look Now. And I've had this a few other times in seeing a movie. When I leave and go out, corners of buildings, corridors and things seem to, this sounds weird, move in a strange way, or you feel a little vertiginous when you see certain things, or a corner seems menacing. Vertigo, from the word vertigo.
Right.
Now, I know, and I read in a review, that there are conscious ways of using the camera so that you can make that. It's almost an after-image thing that happens. Do you know what I'm talking about at all? Am I
I love
totally
this guy's
mad?
style.
Do
He's
I
got a
need
hell of a lot of style.
What's he talking? I think it's.
Aren't I talking about anything?
What I think it is. I'll actually, what I think it is that there's a way of moving the camera with a certain type of lens, usually a wide-angle lens. If you get close enough to a wall, you feel like you're creeping along it. You know?
Yes.
Well,
And it's
that
very
repulsion, though.
repulsion to
You get
that.
that repulsion.
And
Repulsion,
paths of
too.
glory.
The
Paths of
walls
glory
start
in the
to-
trench.
in the
The
trench.
trench. The tracking show with Kirk Douglas. There's a lot of that. You know, with an extremely wide-angle lens. And Orson Welles did it. Orson Welles does it all the time.
Tracking all the time.
And if there's enough of it in a movie, it persists a little bit afterwards.
yeah.
The way that, have you ever looked into bubbling
Persist-
water in a stream for a long time, and then when you look away, the ground ripples?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I never did.
It doesn't.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. I'm having one of my spells. But I know
I
I'm.
should have done some more reading for this
Now
show.
listen. I know I'm talking about. No, this. Come on. Tell me that I'm talking about something that does happen.
I just don't look at the bubbling water. I'm not a nature person. I don't.
Don't
Well,
you take
no, there's no
Alka-Seltzer? How
bubbling
about that shot of Alka-Seltzer now? Come on.
I didn't look through the lens.
Yes. Did you see that shot of Alka-Seltzer in Taxi Driver?
Yeah.
That was
Great
actually a reference
slow
to
motion shot. Slow
Godard's
motion?
movie. Godard. No, it wasn't slow motion.
Was it slow motion?
No, it wasn't. No, he was. I think he was in 42 frames. something like
42
that. Very
frames,
simple.
yes.
But like, yeah, that was just a
Great shot.
You know, the Alka-Seltzer thing. I like that. Yeah, it was fun.
Why is Hitchcock the master? Why you've been referred to, Brian, as the new Hitchcock and so on.
Well, because Hitchcock, I think, pioneered a whole type of film grammar. He taught us how to express things as clearly visually, I think, as they can be expressed. It's like good grammar. You either speak well or you speak badly. You either write clearly or you don't. And he does it. And when he's expressing an idea or a whole cinematic sequence, he puts the camera in exactly the right position. He has exactly the right shots. You know, and everybody else is sort of muddle-headed and bird-brained, basically, and in relationship to him.
Yeah. Why hasn't everyone learned from him then?
Because he's a genius.
You can't duplicate it. You just have.
Well, you
it.
can get close, but he is a genius. I mean,
It's rather.
Have you consciously duplicated Hitchcock effects?
Sure. Sure. I
you
mean,
think
in
about-
learning how to try to use that grammar,
So
I've
have I.
very much tried to look through his eye, and I think now have sort of evolved a kind of grammar of my own. But I mean, if you want to know anything about cinematic storytelling, I mean, he's it.
Then how can they possibly remake a Hitchcock movie? There were plans to
crazy.
remake one,
They
and
can't.
since every shot of a Hitchcock movie is known to
Well,
students
what's
of
interesting
the
about
film.
cinema is that you can copy so carefully. I mean, you can put the camera in exactly the same position. It's
Mm-hmm.
Xerox
You could actually
of a picture.
duplicate it.
Absolutely.
Same setups.
Except it would have no soul.
Now, what you're talking about does not have to do with knowing how to operate a camera, apparently, because if Hitchcock can be believed, he said to me, I've never looked through a camera in my life.
Yeah, but he used to be an illustrator. I mean, he thinks visually. He makes little drawings. He knows what he's doing.
Tell us what that is. You draw out what's called a storyboard
Yes,
beforehand,
storyboard.
and it
But
it
some
shows.
people, I don't know. You must do this. I mean, some people think visually. I mean, when you read a script, you start
Yeah,
seeing
I
pictures.
have trouble reading. I can't read, and I have trouble. I'm serious. I have trouble writing. I have
Why?
a grammar. I just my grammar's impossible, and I just learned to really pictures, always pictures,
Yes.
and have lose concentration reading novels or scripts or books that sort of thing, and it's very hard. That's why when I read a script, usually I just read the dialogue. And very often I'm shooting a scene, and they'll come over to me and say, "Do you want the door to open in the beginning like it says in the script?" I said, "Where's that?" And I haven't even read the description. See,
You only read the dialogue.
basically only the dialogue, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just, for some reason, find it very difficult to
Well,
concentrate.
when I read a
But
script, I start to see the shots.
Yeah,
I mean, I
you begin to
immediately
see
start
things.
seeing
You
the
begin to see
shots.
things, yeah.
You know, and if I read like if I read a script that Marty's going to do, or a script that George Lucas is going to do, or Spielberg's going to do, I can see what they're going to shoot because I can sort of think how they're knowing them and knowing the way they work. You can sort of think in their grammar.
Really? You can
Yes.
say he'll have Cassavetes in the background,
Yes.
the desk will be in the
Yes.
foreground, the
Yes.
camera will be about
I mean,
this
when I read
high.
Star Wars, I knew exactly. I had a very good idea what it was going to look like, knowing George and seeing some of the models and some of the drawings. I could see very much what it was going to look like.
But you still draw pictures. That's how I started getting fascinated. I used to draw little. I didn't know what they were. They were storyboards at the time. I was about 8 years old, 9 years old, and doing my own little movies in a little film form. You know, sort of strips of paper and that sort of thing, in black and white and color in different ways. And I still make the storyboards as much as possible. New York, I did about it only half the picture, but Taxi Driver was completely done, and Mean Streets completely. Alice, 90%. You know.
Without realizing it,
And
you
even
were,
Les Waltz. Even Les Waltz. There were certain scenes in Les Waltz that were done in the MGM studio, which were completely storyboarded.
Another quote of Hitchcock's was that the fun of the movie for him was over before the shooting began. Do you believe
Yes.
that?
Well, for
does that
me,
So you had to-
much of what I see, I have a storyboard which I lay all around my room, and I look at all the shots in relationship to the whole. So I've sort of really worked it out in the whole scheme of the film. So when I go on the stage and start to shoot or go out on location, I very much shoot what's in the design. I sometimes, usually compress it because you don't have enough time, or you elaborate on it if you have more time. But I've more or less figured it out. And then the big problem is, of course, keep the life of the performances. And that's the problem with acting and the kind of movies that I make. The performances have got to be alive, or the whole thing just dies. And that when Hitchcock was at his worst is when those performances are dead. Then the whole superstructure doesn't really hold up at all.
Are there places in his movies where he couldn't deal with the actors properly? Is
Well,
that
he
what you mean?
miscast, or they're very badly. I mean, The Birds, I think, is a great movie if it wasn't for Tippi Hedren. I mean,
Yeah.
she to me is just not interesting.